Dr. MS, your amendment, please, as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I once again remain Honorable Dr. Muhammad Sani Abdu, Alkali Rikil Federal Constituency. I'm from Bauchi State. And I stand to propose an amendment to the prayers of the motion so that the House should set up a powerful ad hoc committee to investigate the Dapchi abduction debacle properly and thoroughly. In order, A, to investigate the Dapchi abduction debacle thoroughly based on carefully crafted terms of reference. B, to visit and commiserate with the parents and people of Dapchi on their trauma. C, to write a far-reaching report for practical implementations such that such a debacle will not take place again and report back within 4 weeks. This is what I propose, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder on the budget?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues. Albert Abiodun Adeoku is my name, representing the people of Ife Central, East, South, and North of the Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from the source, Osun State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion of amendments as available by my colleague. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next amendment, Honorable Mark Miller.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My very honorable colleagues, in the light of the conspiracy theories we have not addressed and the statements by the military about being overstretched, I want to propose the following amendments. That the House constitute a joint committee of the House Committees on National Security and Intelligence, Defense, Army, and Police Affairs to conduct a public investigative hearing with relevant stakeholders to determine 1. the true circumstances surrounding the withdrawal of the Army personnel from Dapchi, Yobe State, and if the withdrawal followed due process of handing over to the police, and the identities of those who ordered the withdrawal with a view to recommend relevant sanctions if necessary, and 2. the true status and challenges of the various security agencies in Nigeria, and the reasons behind the recent suspension of the recruitment exercise embarked upon by the Army. I so propose, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman, Rules and Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My brother Mike Miller has proposed an amendment which is very reasonable. The only problem is that as we speak, we have a committee headed by the Deputy Speaker, another committee headed by Honorable Pale Riase, the Deputy Chief Whip, that are handling security issues. So my take is that we shouldn't be duplicating this since the amendment proposed by Honorable MS has specifics. That's why I didn't oppose it. But this one is more of a general nature on security. So I think we shouldn't bring another that will start bringing these security chiefs when Deputy Speaker's ad hoc committee and Honorable Pale Riase's committee are handling such. So I think we shouldn't be rushing into another ad hoc committee on security again.
Okay, I think we have already taken the motion on the ad hoc committee based on Honorable Dr. M.S. Abdul's amendment. But Mark Miller has a lot of amendments here. Did you move all of them? All of them? Then you have to expunge the one that relates to constituting another committee. Then we can take the secondment on the other amendments that are not related to formation of committee.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What's the point of order, please?
It's
personal explanation, in the sense that we said that to investigate thoroughly based on carefully crafted terms of reference. So all the points he is raising will be encapsulated in the terms of reference which will be investigated. And I think there is no need for going further on that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, Honorable Magbila, amendments have been taken care of. Another one from Honorable Doediri. I think yours too have been captured. It's been taken care of. Kingsley Chinda, I think it's been taken care of.
It's but there is a second limb to it, to extend the investigation to the sustenance of insurgency in the country, so that we don't limit it to Dapchi alone. But aside that, the amendment is taken care of. So if we can extend the powers of that ad hoc committee to also investigate why insurgency is sustained up till date.
Okay, that's one of the terms of reference, I guess. So that is covered. That's the end of all the amendments. So I'll put the question. Those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable colleagues, we'll take few announcements before we move on. This is to inform all my honorable colleagues that God has added another year to me, and there will be refreshments after seating at room 3.07. Thank you. Announcer Honorable Henry Wabuba. Is he on the floor? He's not here. So wish him happy birthday when we see him. Honorable colleagues, sectoral debate on steel development in Nigeria, pursuant to Order 16, Rule 3 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives. I wish to remind honorable members of the House that the sectoral debate on steel development in Nigeria is scheduled to hold on Thursday, 1st March 2018 by 11 a.m. prompt. Relevant papers on the debate have been posted to honorable members' pigeonholes at hearing room 2. So this announcement will be repeated tomorrow. Move to the first business of the day. As a matter of fact, it's the first order of the day, which is the third reading of a bill for an act to establish Chartered Institute of Commodity Brokers of Nigeria, CICBN, and for related matters. Honorable members will recall that the House adopted the report of the Committee of the Whole on the bill on Thursday, 8 February 2018. I therefore call on the Leader of the House to move that the bill be now read the third time. Chairman, Rules and Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeff. I represent the good people of Buruku. My dear colleagues, I'm from Benue State. Mr. Speaker, may I move that we step down this item? Some very serious issues have been observed on the third reading of this bill. So, may I humbly move that the House do step down this item for further legislative input. I so move.
Item step down by leave of the House. Second order of the day is the third reading of a bill for an act to establish the Institute of Chartered Biochemists, a molecular biologists charged with responsibilities to, among other things, determine the standard of knowledge and skills to be attained by persons seeking to become registered biochemists and molecular biologists, register such persons, regulate and control their practice, and review those standards from time to time as circumstances may permit and for related matters. Honorable members who recall that the House adopted the report of the Committee of the Whole on the bill on Thursday, 8 February 2018. I therefore call on the Leader of the House to move the bill be now read the third time. Chairman, rules and business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to move that a bill for an act to establish the Institute of Chartered Biochemists and Molecular Biologists charged with the responsibilities to, among other things, determine standard of knowledge and skills to be attained by persons seeking to become registered biochemists and molecular biologists, register such persons, regulate and control their practice, and review those standards from time to time as circumstances may permit, and for related matters, be read a third time. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so move.
Acting Whip.
Mr. Speaker, sir, all members, I'm Right Honorable Goni Bukar Lawan, member representing Burusari, Gaida Minusari, and from Yobe State. I rise to second the motion heavily moved by the Chairman Rules and Business. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Clerks invited to long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to establish the Institute of Chartered Biochemists and Molecular Biologists charged with the responsibility to, among other things, determine standard of knowledge and skills to be attained by persons seeking to become registered biochemists and molecular biologists, register such persons, regulate and control their practice, and review those standards from time to time as circumstances may permit and for related matters. Third reading.
Bill read the third time and passed. Third order of the day, honorable colleagues, the third reading of a bill for an act to repeal the Nigeria Film Corporation Act, Chapter N, 109, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and reenact the Nigerian Film Commission Bill 2018 to regulate and develop the film industry in Nigeria and for related matters 2018. Honorable members recall the House adopted the report of Committee of the Whole on the bill on Thursday, 8 February 2018. I therefore call on the Leader of the House to move the bill be now read the third time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'm okay, Jeff, and I represent the good people of Buruku. My dear colleagues, I'm from Benue State. I rise to move that a bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Film Corporation Act, Cap N109, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and reenact the Nigerian Film Commission Bill 2018 to regulate and develop the film industry in Nigeria and for related matters be read a third time. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so move.
Mr. Speaker, sir, all members, I rise to second the motion heavily moved by the Chairman Rules and Business. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Now invite the clerk to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Film Corporation Act, Chapter N109, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and reenact the Nigerian Film Corporation Bill 2018 to regulate and develop the film industry in Nigeria and for related matters. Third reading.
Bill read the third time and passed. Fourth order of the day, honorable colleagues, commencement of debate on the general principles of bill for an act to amend the Criminal Court Act, Chapter C38, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to criminalize any interference in the duty and authority of the Senate or the House of Representatives and for related matters standing in the name of Honorable Osai, Nicholas Osai. Honorable members who recall the bill was read the first time on Tuesday, 16th January 2018. I now invite Honorable Osai to move the bill be now read second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Osai Nicholas Osai. I present local qualification. Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill for an act to amend the Criminal Code Act Cap C, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to criminalize any interference in the duties and authority of the state, the House of Representatives, and for the related matter, HB 1274, be read a second time. I so move.
Abonta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Uzoma Nkem Abonta is my name. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Uzoma Nkem Abonta is my name. Mr. Speaker, I support the motion that this bill be read the second time as moved by Osai Nicholas Osai. I so support.
Honorable Osai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, you will recall that in 1916, these issues was debated and a law on issues to guide the legislature as an organ of government was also enacted, which was reaffirmed in the 1960 law. Mr. Speaker, the coming of the military government in 1966 expunged it in 1967, this particular aspect of the law. If you looked at section 61, chapter 8 of the Criminal Code Law of Nigeria, with your kind permission, I want to read. Say a person, offenses against the executive and legislative power, as a head. Interference with executive or legislative power. Any person who advisedly does any unlawful act calculated to interfere with the free exercise by the president or a governor of the duty or authority of his office, or with the free exercise by a member of the Federal Executive Council or a state council of his duties, as such member is guilty of a felony and is liable to imprisonment for 3 years. This is a particular aspect I want to amend to include the legislator, because already the intention was very clear that the legislators also have some duties to perform as regard what the Constitution provisions are given to them. But interference in this aspect should also be attributed to the legislative arm. But because the coming of the military does not want the legislative house, and that's why the legislative house has not grown over time. So it's in that circumstances that in 1967, the military government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria expunged that particular aspect that protects the legislature in their duties and in their affairs. The question one we ask, what of the Legislative Powers and Privileges Act? In subsection 3 of the Legislative Power and Privilege Act only talks about immunity, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. And when you look at section 16, that even talks about obstruction. It talks that the legislators cannot be obstructed within the precinct and the chamber of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, in order to align the law effectively, when we talk about the issues of criminal issues, we are not talking of the criminal code that allows virtually all laws in Nigeria in terms of criminality offenses. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, this law is going to help the legislator a lot to have the authority to be able to administer those particular functions that the Constitution has also conferred to them. It is in this light that is what is good for the goose is good for the gander. And I believe that successive governments have come, military have come, and at the same time have not seen the need. Even when in 1999 that this ought to have been ratified, the military government didn't ratify before handing over the Constitution to us. A current research has also shown that because there's a lacuna in this aspect of this, and that's why legislators encounter all kind of issues during their operations. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, the importance of this bill. The bill makes it an offense of felony and seeks to criminalize anybody who interferes unlawfully with the duties and authority of the office of the President the Vice President, the Governor, the Deputy Governor, distinguished senators, and honorable members of the House of Representatives. 2. The bill is a step ahead of the Legislative Powers and Privileges Act in the sense that the former only provides immunity to legislators without criminalizing offenders, while the latter makes it a criminal offense for any unlawful interference with the duties and authority of lawmakers. 3. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleague, the current Legislative Powers and Privileges Act is silence on the punishment to a person who interfere or obstruct unlawfully the duties and authority of the above government officials. Hence, the lacuna is now being cured by this bill. 4th, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, the bill does not only intend to criminalize people who interfere with the legislative duties of the above-mentioned officials, but also their legislative authority, which presupposes that as long as one remains a senator or a member of the House of Representatives, he or she has and possesses an authority, and anybody who unlawfully interferes with that authority will be criminally liable for offense or felony. Distinguished honorable colleagues, the Principal Act also provides for criminalization of offender against the President and the governors and members of the Federal Executive Council are virally protected. When you also look at another aspect of it, the judiciary is also protected. The only arm of government that is not protected in this law and that has not been provided elsewhere in any law in our country is the legislative arm. So I urge you, honorable members, to support this bill with the speed of light. Thank you.
Rules and business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeff. I represent the good people of Buruku, my dear colleagues. I'm from Benue State. Mr. Speaker, I've read the provisions of this bill. I've also read the legal brief that has been supplied by Honorable Osai Osai. I've listened to him. And I salute the industry that Honorable Osai Osai always brings to any project he embarks on. Unfortunately, I disagree with him on this. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Osai has told us that the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act does not provide sufficiently for protection for the officers and members of the legislature and does not even criminalize it. Nothing can be further from the truth. Mr. Speaker, if you look at Section 16, which is titled Obstructing Members or Officers and Creating Disturbances, etc., etc., it lists what is the offenses thereunder. And then it goes on to say, shall be guilty of an offense and liable on conviction to a fine of 100 naira or imprisonment for 6 months or to both such fine and imprisonment. If this is not enough, Honorable Osai Osai should be amending this law and not going to amend the criminal code. Mr. Speaker, let me say that the criminal code, by the way, we all know the criminal code does not apply in Abuja. Now, if you bring a law, the criminal code applies in the South. Now, if you bring a law and amend this, and you are talking about the House of Representatives or the National Assembly, and that is of no use, by the way. And it will also be duplicating a law that is also in existence. My take is that maybe the fine should have been updated. That is what Honorable Osai Osai should be thinking about, not bringing another law that will create more confusion in the criminal in the administration of criminal justice in this country. So my take is that this law is not needed. The lacuna that he felt was created by taking out of whatever sections has been adequately cured by the provisions of the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act. And I think we should ask Honorable Osai Osai to withdraw this because it will only create confusion, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable Bonta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Uzoma Nkem Abonta is my name. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Abia State. Mr. Speaker, with all sense of legislative duties, I want to support this bill. Presently, as also observed by Nicholas Osai Osai, the Parliament appears to not to be protected. I very much appreciate and also align myself with the argument of the last speaker, but we want to disagree with him to the extent that we have an immunity as read out by him. For whosoever that will willfully do that, what happens? If it's not severe, then that is why we are witnessing the obstruction daily. Because there's no severe punishment. I do not even think, if we must think aloud, that anybody could contemplate preventing the governor from carrying out willful assignments. Not to talk of the president. Mr. Speaker, nobody should block you or stop your lawful orders emanating from the house here. Should it come to be, we have witnessed it before, severally. What Osai is trying to do is to fill in the gap. We know that there's a skeletal form of protection. But what he's saying, must we just be protected? Should there not be sanction? Any law that has no sanction is as good as no law. What he's saying is that the criminal code should, as there's a protection for the executive, even in the face of the court, from stopping a lawful order of a court, is sanctionable, is jailable, prima facie before the court. But must the legislature get the bashing? Must they just be the downtrodden? Meanwhile, that is the most important organ of the government that oversees, that balances the two. Therefore, the absence of this is a clear lacuna. It may be an omission, but I do not think it's a mere omission. For avoidance of doubt, to make sure, double assurance, we are saying that whosoever that willfully does this, to my mind, at the committee stage, the experts will be able to look at it thoroughly and determine what will amount to obstruction. For example, Mr. Speaker, should somebody refuse to obey a lawful resolution or resolution emanating from this, that could be obstructing the legislative duties for no just reason. Not just blocking you that you will not pass the door, but whosoever refuses to obey a resolution emanated. Mr. Speaker, failure to implement a budget, for example, is refusing to do legislative duties. I'm giving a lot of examples. Until we get to take this seriously, then it will be free for all. If the executives will there sit down there and refuse to allow the willful flow of legislative duties, then we'll be working in vain. And that is why we do things that cannot be obeyed. That is why we do things. Someone had expressed that the resolution of the House is a mere expression of opinion because there's no sanction to it. That is why we'll give an order, a resolution that so be done, and nobody ignores it. That is obstructing legislative duties. I therefore want to say that our colleagues should allow this to go to committee stage where experts will define it, where we can even look at the American model, the British model, and see what's obtainable there and do it. But saying from here to say it is not strongly done or it's provided somewhere skeletally is not enough. The criminal code looks at criminality in its entirety, and it should be so branded. Until that is done, we will be suffering these epileptic legislative things. I therefore say that we support this bill, that let's go to the second reading at the committee stage. It will be done properly. I so support, Mr. Speaker.
I think there's a technical problem with this bill, really. I don't understand it very well. On the both side, I don't know. You're talking about amending the Criminal Court Act. You know we have two criminal courts in Nigeria. The Criminal Court and the Penal Court. And unfortunately, the Criminal Court does not even apply in Abuja. It's the Penal Court. So I don't know how you want to get out of the rigmarole.
Both of them have been amended. The other one is already being gazetted. Section 6 of the Penal Code talks about it. Section 6, Chapter 3 of the Penal Code talks about the same thing. that was expunged at the same time in 1967. So both of them talks about, this one is chapter 8, section 61. The penal code is chapter 3, section 6. A research has been done about it, and this must be restored. And I told him that when I approached him.
So are you amending the two codes by this provision in this very legislation? Honorable Sadiq.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Sadiq Ibrahim. I represent Full Forest and Federal Constituency from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, anytime I see any law that is going to impinge on or interfere with the function of the legislature, I frown at it. But I'm also a member of the bench, and therefore I'm a priest in the temple of justice. Therefore, whenever I see an amendment like this that will interfere with the arrangement of our laws in this country, I also frown at it, because if care is not taken, we get to a tipping point where important matters like this will be brought here without adequate information, adequate preparation by the lawyers that are here. We have a senior advocate of Nigeria. This is a very, very important piece of legislation that we must not allow to pass without thorough investigation and seeing why. Because if you look at the side note of section 61, there is Laws of the Federation number 2, 1960, Laws of Nigeria 112 of 1964, 1967, and number 27. Most of the arguments and the copies of these brought by Honorable Osai are from 2004 laws. The laws of the Federation 2004, Mr. Speaker, are not effectual in courts in Nigeria today. The ones that we have distributed in this house, they are not cited. The law that is cited is the 2004 laws. These are the laws that are cited. Therefore, as the chairman of Rules and Business has said, Abuja was northern Nigeria. The laws applicable to northern Nigeria, there are so many of them that do not apply in southern Nigeria, especially when it comes to crimes. For instance, Mr. Speaker, adultery is an offense under the penal code in northern Nigeria, but it's not an offense in the south. So let us not, in trying to make right what Mr. Osai or Honorable Osai thinks, throw the baby away with bathwater. I would like this House, Honorable Speaker, to resolve to request Honorable Osai to withdraw this bill. Let us go back to the drawing board. We have a Lionel Silk here, Chairman Rules and Business is a lawyer, and there are many legal minds here that we need to look at it so that we don't rush and then get the problem with the two constituencies that you represent as a lawyer and as a legislator. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Pajo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, my name is Edward Pojok. I represent the south, just east of Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, let me say from the outset that I align myself with the submissions of Honorable Abonta on this matter. Yes, as relevant as the arguments of both Chairman Rules of Business and Honorable Sadiq are, I think that this matter should go to the committee stage where other experts will now come and give their inputs. Mr. Speaker, let me also add that the criminal code is applicable to the entire Federation. It deals with federal offenses. It's distinct from the penal code, which there's the penal code which is applicable in the northern states. There's also the penal code which has federal application. But what Honorable Osai is bringing is to amend the criminal code which has federal application. It's a federal penal legislation. And what it seeks to do is to underscore the authority of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, like he noted in his brief, I too read the Principal Act. And the Principal Act seems to have a conspicuous omission, because the Principal Act calls it a law to criminalize any interference in the duty and authority of the executive and also the legislature. But then in providing no punishment, nothing was said of the legislature, but then punishments were given for the executive. So it's a practice that something is wrong. Why is there a lacuna? If the law felt it necessary to provide punishment for interfering in the obstruction of the authority of the executive, why not the legislature? Because it is mentioned there. So if it is mentioned there, then it means, like he said, he did know his research. Why did they remove it in 1967 when the military came on board? So I think that without us dismissing it with a wave of the hand, let us take it to the committee stage where the Committee of Justice will invite all the experts, including ourselves. If we have reservations, we go there and go and say, why are we having no reservations? Again, on the matter raised by the Chairman of Rules and Business, whether he should have amended the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act. Mr. Speaker, he referred to Section 16. Mr. Speaker, is instructed that the very first line of Section 16 says, any stranger in respect of a legislative house, who, then it goes on and on. Mr. Speaker, even the word stranger is amenable to different interpretations. What if, like it has happened in the past, the police decided to block the gate and members cannot have access into the National Assembly? Somebody may interpret police and say, well, the police are not strangers. After all, they also work and provide security for the National Assembly. But in fact, they have interfered with the authority of Parliament, which is a sacred authority, it's a sacred duty. I'm giving us example to show that it's something that we have to take very, very seriously. By the time it comes out that Parliament has criminalized any infraction of the authority of Parliament, even the police themselves will tread very softly in interfering with the authority of Parliament. So this goes far beyond the Legislative Privileges and Powers Act, because this one is talking about whether we summon someone to come and appear before Parliament or a committee. If you refuse to come before a Parliament, for now the law says you'll be jailed with maybe 15 naira or so. This goes beyond issue of just summoning persons, but it goes beyond the general authority of us as parliamentarians, whether in Parliament or even outside, when we go and do our legislative function. So I think that let us not kill the baby with the bathwater. Let's take this to the committee stage and we'll thoroughly debate this. But to say that, no, let us step it down, let us take it away, as if it doesn't have any redeeming benefits. I think that there are so many good things in this law, in this bill. Let's take it to the committee stage. And if at the end of the day, because it will still come back to the committee of the whole, if we still feel that, no, this law is a long run, at that level we'll say, no, we'll kill it. But for now, I'm of the view that, honestly, let us take it to the committee stage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So, Honorable Yinka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My respected colleagues, I remain Honorable Ade Yinka Ajayi. I represent the people of Ifelodu, Boripe, and Odo-Otin. I'm from the state of Osun. Mr. Speaker, in aligning myself with the submissions of Honorable Kwajok in salvaging this bill, I want to refer us to Section 4 of the Constitution. Section 4, Mr. Speaker, says, and I read with your permission, Mr. Speaker, the legislative powers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be vested in a National Assembly for the Federation, which shall consist of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker, the institution, the most significant and direct symbol of democracy is this premises we're in, the National Assembly, and by extension, the institution that it represents. To that extent, Mr. Speaker, any law or amendment that is intended to secure, protect, or in any way empower that institution must not be treated lightly. And it is against the background of that position, Mr. Speaker, that I look at the odds that appear to be put against this bill. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, yes, it is true that even the precinct that we're in is covered by the penal code, which is not the law that is intended to be amended here. But like we've been informed, both the criminal code and the penal code have components therein that have application across the board by similarity, not in their laws. To the extent that they have similar provisions that are interchangeable, it is clear that if we amend the criminal code, which on the face of that code itself has a void, the reason being that the military deliberately at the time, knowing that the military at every point in time always suspends the Constitution and by extension suspends the legislative institution, deleted the same provisions as applies to this institution. And that is the reason why this amendment is being sought, because it's an omission, a deletion that was deliberately occasioned by the intendment of the military government at the time. So if the intendment of this bill is to return to the criminal code what was deliberately deleted by exigencies of that time, Mr. Speaker, my respected colleagues, I believe that we can allow this bill to go to the committees, where the committee can look critically at the observations raised by our colleagues to ensure that we do not, in the spirit or in the zeal to protect this institution, in the end, commit an illegality against either the criminal code, the penal code, or the Constitution. But to the extent that this law only seeks to return what was deleted, I believe that we should allow this bill to go for second reading, and at the committee stage, we can address whatever issues we feel are necessary at that point in time. On that note, Mr. Speaker, my respected colleagues, I commend the mover of the motion and the sponsor of the bill, and I encourage us to allow this bill to pass second reading.
Honorable Isaka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Ibrahim Ayokole Isaka is my name. Before I wait for a federal constituency of the state, I want to, first of all, thank the mover of this wonderful bill, and to follow suit, Honorable Kajio's submission and that of Honorable Ajayi. My concern here, Mr. Speaker, is that whatever will give credence to consequences as far as this legislative house is concerned, I will always stand up to support. Because in this country as a whole, aside these legislative duties and functions, why we have so many gaps in our doings does not in any way surpass there are no consequences. We've seen in the Constitution, section 88 and 89, no matter how paltry the consequences are as stipulated in the Constitution, there are still consequences for violating that section. Now, if we leave it open that, okay, the legislature, what you say or do in the chambers, they are protected. The person that is going to violate that protection, there should be consequence for such a person, Mr. Speaker. That is where I'm arriving at. With this little submission, I want to appeal that we allow this bill to go to the respective committees, as stated, to cross the T's, dot the I's, and look at this clearly. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, sir.
Honorable MS Abdul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mohammed Sani Abdu Al-Kaleri Federal Constituency. I'm from Bauchi State. Sir, I'm also aligning with those who argue that it should go for second reading. And this is a non-lawyer perspective. Sir, if we queue up this piece of legislation into action, it means we're in action. But if we step it down, it means we are out of action. And it may never see the light of the day. And that is where I think, since we are here to legislate, and we have seen a deletion, either it is by commission or omission, whatever, that will bring us into making sure that whatever we legislate goes to the end of the road in terms of implementation. That is very important. Second piece, of recent we have simply thorough of chief executives. We invite them, they will not come. You ask for documents, they will not give. They have been going against us and everything. I think by the time it goes to the committee, all such issues will be looked at roundly, and we will be able to get to where we want this house, this bastion of democracy, to perform its function properly for the good governance of Nigeria. And therefore, whatever misgiving we have that we should step down and lawyers should look, all the committees are full of lawyers in this house. You are taking it to the relevant committees that the lawyers are in action. I will not be there. But if I have any non-lawyer, non-learned position, I will put in for them to take action. So please, I support that it should go for second reading based on this. Otherwise, it means we are introducing lethargy, something that we can do today. We are procrastinating till tomorrow, and I don't think it's a good thing. It says procrastination is a lazy man's apology. We should not be lazy. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Lowell will be the last contributor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My honorable colleagues, my name is Lawal Abubakar. I represent the people of Yola North, Yola South, and Gire. I'm from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, I would like to also lend my voice here by supporting this bill to go for a second reading. The reason being that if you look at even the principal act, the subtitle of the act reads interference with executive or legislative power. So, and if you go to the body of the provision of that section 61, you will find out that the issue of legislative power or protecting the legislator is not there. Reason being that during the military regime, we have only two arms of government, the executive and then the judiciary. So that is one of my reasons for supporting this amendment. And secondly, if we look at even interference, when we talk about interference with the legislative power, it is a federal offense. And federal offense is defined under section 28, subsection 3 of the Constitution, to read that federal offense means an offense contrary to the provision of the Acts of National Assembly or any law having effect as if it is so enacted by the National Assembly. For that reason, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, I support this bill to go for secondary. Thank you.
So I'll put a question. The question is the bill be now read second time. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Clerks invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to amend the Criminal Code Act, Chapter C-338, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to criminalize any interference in the duty and authority of the Senate or the House of Representatives and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill is referred to Committee on Justice. Fifth order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principles of Bill for an Act to amend the Raw Materials Research and Development Council Act, Chapter R3, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, provide for reduction in the membership of the Council, to provide for the payment of all monies received by the Council into the Federation account in accordance with Section 162 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, and to repeal the Raw Material Research and Development Council Act, Chapter R3, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and reenact the Raw Material Research and Development Council Bill, and for related matters standing in the names of Honorable Jerry Alagbaso, Honorable Gyangi Stephanus Duke, and Honorable Uchichuku Nam Obi. Honorable members recall the bills were consolidated on Tuesday, 28th February 2018. I now invite the leader to move the bill be now read the second time. Chairman, Rules and Business.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Namobi is one of the sponsors of the bill. He's around if he's ready to go on. Otherwise,
so are we set to go on, Honorable Namobi?
Well, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I pray that we step down this bill for further legislative consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Fifth order on the order paper stepped down by leave of the House. Sixth order of the day, honorable colleagues, a motion on need to investigate the failure to pay monies allocated for local contractors in the 2017 budget, standing in the name of Honorable Magaji Dao Aliu. Honorable members, Honorable Aliu is now invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Magaji Dao Aliu, member representing Brunung Kujuboji Pere constituency. Your Excellency, I'm from Jigawa State. I stand here to move a motion on the need to investigate the failure to pay monies allocated for local contractors in the 2017 budget. The House should note that the federal government has been indebted to the tune of 9.1 trillion to local contractors in the last 3 years, as reflected in the reports of Central Bank of Nigeria and the Debt Management Office. And also note that inability of the federal government to finance the 2017 budget deficit, and it meets its obligation, made the Federal Ministry of Finance to source funds from commercial banks, the capital markets, and through the sukuk, etc., while the said fund has not been used to pay indigenous contractors. Further note that with the country exiting from economic recession, which had already adversely affected the standard of living of Nigerians, the federal government can reflect the economy by paying local contractors, thereby creating employment and boosting the purchasing power of Nigerians. Aware that the sum of 20 billion naira was earmarked in the 2017 budget to settle debts owed to contractors and other liabilities. Cognizant that some of these contractors may have collected loans from various commercial banks or other financial houses in which will be yielding interest on a daily basis, or may have lost collateral used to obtain such loans. Also aware that most of the contractors have dependence, responsibility of various financial commitments, especially at these trying times when the economy is experiencing difficulties and unemployment is rife. The House should resolve 1, to ask the Federal Ministry of Finance to look into the indebtedness and source of fund to offset the debt, or in the alternative coup of payments plan. 2, mandate the Committee on Aid, Loans and Debt Management to determine the efforts of Debt Management Office in relation with the federal government inability to pay the local contractors. 2, investigate the actual indebtedness of ministries, departments, and agencies of federal government to the local contractors in the last 3 years. Your Excellency, I so move. Thank you.
Second, Honorable Kila.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Honorable Yuguda Hassan Kila. I represent Waram Federal Constituency. I am from Jigawa State. Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Magaji. I so second. Thank you.
Honorable Dow, please lead the debate. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, honorable colleague, this is a very important motion. This motion seeks to create the awareness of this House to the looming crisis in this country. If not attended to, it is like a keg of gunpowder waiting to be triggered up. In the 2017 appropriation bill, make provision for a sum of 20 billion, which was earmarked to settle debts, old contractors or other indebtedness and other related expenses. It is in the public opinion that the federal government of Nigeria is indebted to the tune of 9.1 trillion to the local contractors between the last 3 years. A substantial part of this said debt is still unpaid up to today. This is reflected in various central banks' economic communique, monetary policy, and the Debt Management Office debt profiles reports. Also, the inability of the federal government to finance the debt, to finance the 2017 measure to get some loans. And part of this is to ensure that these local contractors were paid. While also we are seeing the economic recession in the country, as well as standard of living of the Nigerians, the federal government can reboot the economy, spend its way out of the recession by paying its local contractors for circulation in the society and create employment all over the place. Honorable colleagues, Mr. Speaker, these contractors may have collected these loans from various banks or other financial houses that may be yielding interest on daily basis, and or they have lost any form of most of their collaterals to the deficits. Most of these contractors have defendants' responsibility, Honorable Speaker, and various financial commitments on their shoulders. And in this time period when the economy is experiencing difficulties, time is now ripe for creating unemployment and crawling gross domestic product. Right, Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, I seek your support and understanding to take a critical look and vote in support of this motion. That these contractors are our brothers, sisters complaining of not being paid. And the loan obtained for the implementation of the projects are daily accumulating, whereas provision was made for the payment in the last year's Appropriation Act. The Speaker, I so submit. I hope my colleagues will support so that at least this portion will see the light of the day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, since it's investigative, I put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Seventh order of the day is a motion on need to curb the activities of visa racketeers within the Chinese embassy in Nigeria, standing in the name of Honorable Prestige Osi. Honorable Osi is invited to move the motion. Honorable Osi, these racketeers, are they within the Chinese embassy? Then in which case you should know that it's China. And I don't know how you can enter into China, even though it's in Nigeria, to curb their activities. So you owe us an explanation before you even go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Prestige Osi, member representing Abasa Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Abia State. Mr. Speaker, the racketeers are within and outside the embassy. And maybe by the time I am through with this motion, you will be able to understand how the practice is done. So it's within and outside the embassy, Mr. Speaker.
You can only deal with the one outside the embassy. But anything within, you should know that by law, dint of law of the nations, there's nothing you can do about it.
Mr. Speaker.
Maybe Chairman Rules and Business, we may have to step down this motion, re-examine it first, so that we don't offend friendly nations. And you know, it's reciprocity. If we go into their embassy, they can go into our embassy in China as well. So you have to technically look at it and ensure that legally we are protected and covered. So can we step it down, please? Also, let's step it down so that you look at it, take a look at it again before bringing it here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Based on your advice, Mr. Speaker, I would like to step this motion down for us to take a second look at the headings and other things that there are. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And consult your sister, Chairman Foreign Relations Committee, just to ensure that we're not offending any friendly nation. That's just it. Nothing much. So the seventh order stepped down by leave of the House. Eighth order of the day is a motion on urgent need to provide relief materials to Nigerian refugees from Abadan and Mobar local government areas of Borno State in Niger Republic. I don't understand this rather. Eighth order of the day is a motion on urgent need to provide relief materials to Nigerian refugees from Abadan and Mobar local government areas of Borno State in Niger Republic. Or is the Abadan and Mobar local governments that are in Niger Republic? Or are we saying that the refugees from these two local governments in Nigeria are in Niger? Oh, okay. The rendering is wrong. Okay, I'll reorder it this way. Relief materials, the eighth order of the day is a motion on urgent need to provide relief materials to Nigerian refugees in Niger Republic from Abadan and Mobar local government areas of Borno State. Standing in the name of Honorable Malam Bukar Ghana, Honorable Ghana is now invited to move the motion.
One house, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Madam Bukar Ghana, member representing Abadam, Zamala, Kuka, and Mobar Federal Constituency in Borno State. My motion is urgent need to provide relief materials to Nigeria refugees from Abadam and Mobar local government areas of Borno State in Niger Republic. The House notes the need to reflect upon and, more importantly, take urgent action on the deplorable condition of Nigerians from Abadam and Mobar local government areas of Borno State who have been forced to migrate become refugees in neighboring Niger Republic due to activities of Boko Haram insurgents. Aware that it is destabilizing for one to be forced out of one home community and become totally dependent on others for help, and when that help does not come, the level of misery is increased. Also note that at present, there are over 100,000 refugees residing in Niger Republic, majority of whom are from Abadam, Zamala, Mobar, and Kuka areas of Borno State. Further note that some time ago, the Prime Minister of Niger Republic visited some of those camps in Garindogo, Tumur, Siam, Gamari, and Tifa province, during which he made a categorical statement that Niger Republic can no longer cope with the numbers of Nigerians crossing to country as humanitarian crisis beyond their means. Also aware that Borno State government had been making efforts in providing some assistance which have not been enough to cushion the effect of the refugees crisis. Concern about the precarious situation of women and children in those camps who are vulnerable to antisocial and serious humanitarian crisis that may further escalate the already troubling security situation. Also concerned that lately the refugees have been facing food, medical, and water challenges due to the suspension of assistance by international organizations that were hitherto providing such materials. Resolved to urge the National Emergency Management Agency NEMA to the Borno State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, and the Presidential Committee on Northeast Initiative, PCNI, to provide relief materials to the refugees. Mandate the committees on internal displaced person refugees, IDPs, and initiative on Northeast Zone and emergency and disaster preparedness to ensure compliance. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Honorable Chika, Dauda Haliru.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I am Haliru Dauda Chika, representing Darazuka, your federal constituency of Bauchi State, Northeast Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, I humbly rise to second as motion moved by Honorable Ghana. Honorable Ghana, so I humbly second, sir.
This is a motion relating to provision of relief materials. I think I'll just put the question at this juncture. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Ninth order of the day is a motion on need for River Basin Development Authorities to focus on their statutory mandate to reduce Nigeria's dependency on rain-fed agriculture, standing in the name of Honorable Emmanuel Okwate. Honorable Okwate is now invited to move the motion. Chairman, Rules and Business, I don't think Okwate is on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I move that item number 10, number 9 on the order paper be stepped down since Honorable Okwate is not available to move it. I so move.
Item 9 in the order paper stepped down by leave of the House. 10th order of the day is a motion on need to stop the continued casualization of young Nigerians participating in the Chevron Nigeria Limited vocational training program, standing in the name of Honorable Mayowa Samuel Akinfolari. Honorable Mayowa is now invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Akinfolari Mayowa. I represent Ile-Oluji Okegbo, Odigbo Federal Constituency. I am from the Sunshine State, Ondo. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move a motion on the need to stop the continued casualization of Nigerians participating in Chevron Nigeria Limited vocational training program. Note that the vocational training program VTP of Chevron Nigeria Limited is designed to train young Nigerians who are mostly from the Niger Delta and other geopolitical zones of the country, and later be converted to permanent staff after 18 to 24 months of training. Also note that the VTP participants are selected based on merit after being successful in the assessment and interview stages, and are trained as process operators stroke maintenance technicians for Chevron Deepwater Agbami offshore and onshore facilities. Aware that the program has been on since 2004, and Chevron has converted 4 sets of VTP trainees, having been converted in January 2014, and the duration of the conversions of this casual staff VTP training to permanent staff range between 1.5 years to 2.5 years. Also aware that the batches 5 and 6 of the VTP trainees who have been working for Chevron Nigeria Limited in the last 4 to 5 years without being converted to permanent staff, a situation that the Chevron is taking undue advantage by keeping the participants working under unpalatable conditions. Concerned that Chevron Nigeria refused to regularize the status of VTPs, which has left 101 VTP 5 trainees and the 50 VTP 6 trainee in limbo, as they are neither permanent staff nor contract staff, since they do not receive benefits either as permanent staff or contract employees. Further aware that the action of Chevron Nigeria Limited contravenes Section 17A of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, which guarantees equal pay for equal work, and Section 7(1) of Labour Act 2004, which provides that not later than 3 months after the beginning of a worker's period of employment with an employer, the employer shall give the worker a written statement specifying the terms and conditions of the employment. Concerned that Chevron Nigeria Limited has continued to perpetuate the casualization of young Nigerian workers by increasing the period of training contracts in 2015 beyond the 18 to 24 months period. Informed of attempts by host community leaders to intervene over the years on the corporate slavery of VTP staff by the Chevron management, but the Chevron management has refused to cooperate. The House hereby resolves to urge Chevron Nigeria Limited to regularize the VTP trainees undergoing training programs to permanent staff without further delay. 2. Mandate Committee on Labour, Employment and Productivities and Justice to investigate the matter and also determine whether Chevron Nigeria Limited flout the labour laws through those process and report to the House within 6 weeks for further legislative action. I have a move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Honorable Brown Randolph.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My name is Honorable Randolph Iworenebra, representing Degma Bonifera Consensi. I rise, Mr. Speaker, to second the motion as ably moved by Honorable Moewa. I so second.
Honorable Mayo, please lead the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This motion is about the plight of young Nigerians engaged by Chevron Nigeria Limited. The terms of engagement is usually that after 18 to 24 months of engagement, these young Nigerians will be converted to permanent staff. But the situation on ground is so clear that Chevron is not even prepared to listen to these Nigerians, which, if you look at it critically, Mr. Speaker, is another form of corporate slavery. And as representative of the people, we owe it a duty to protect our people because we carry their burdens, we carry their desires. And if they have problems, if we don't act, nobody will act on their behalf. And it is obviously clear, based on interventions by notable Nigerians on this issue, Chevron has refused to yield grant. And based on that, I'm calling on this honorable house that we as a house should act on behalf of these young Nigerians to see that they are converted to permanent staff within a very reasonable time. And my prayer is this, I will repeat again, Mr. Speaker, that we urge Chevron Nigeria Limited to regularize the VTP trainings, undergo training program to permanent staff without further delay. Then 2, to mandate the Committee on Labour, Employment, Productivities and Justice to investigate the matter and also determine whether Chevron Nigeria Limited violated the labor law through those process and report to the House within 6 weeks for further legislative action. I'm saying this, I'm bringing up this prayer so that we don't necessarily castigate or indict Chevron. It is right and proper for this House to investigate to determine the truth of the matter. That is my simple explanation about this motion to save young Nigerians from being enslaved within their own country.
Honorable Shidi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Chidi Frank Kwihioka, representing the Kweremo Federal Constituency. I'm from Rivers State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion because it has to do with our youth. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you look around now, we are trying to find a way to handle issue of insecurity. And one of the ways of handling issue of insecurity is by finding a way to provide employment for our youth. But this is a situation where even though that have been trained by Chevron, an oil company operating in the Niger Delta, they find it difficult after the training, after they must have passed all the necessary exams, and then worked there as trainee for over 3 years, they have refused to regularize their appointment. And when they don't regularize their appointment, what happens? A time will come when these youths now will now form a body and start protesting against the company. What next do? They will order their security people to shoot. By that time, violence will start, and they will now start thinking of what remedy that will put in place. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm supporting this motion because it has to do with cautioning and making the oil companies do what is right and at the right time. Because if they regularize this employment opportunity for these trainees, it will go a long way in solving unemployment problems, and it will go a long way in reducing security issues in Niger Delta. I come from Niger Delta, and I know the problems we encounter on a daily basis because of the behavior of some of these oil companies. Thank God my colleague here has been able to find out that of the Chevron. It is not only Chevron, Mr. Speaker. And if you look at it, it cuts across all the states in the Niger Delta. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm supporting this motion and I'm asking the whole House to support this motion that will compel Chevron to issue employment letters so that the people will not get sense of belonging, that they are now staff, and that will not give other ones undergoing the trading process that when they finish, they will have opportunity to work in the oil company. Mr. Speaker, I urge the whole House to support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Sajos.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my highly esteemed colleagues. I'm Sejus Ose Ogun. I represent Eastern Southeast, Eastern Northeast, and I'm from Edo State. Mr. Speaker, I have a lot to say on this motion, but considering the time, I'll just try and do justice to it without saying too much. Mr. Speaker, the Chevron vocational training program is a laudable one, is a good one, and I don't know how they came about it, whether it's as a result of pressure from the community and the host and the stakeholders. In any case, this is as a result of the failure in our system, educational system. Because what Chevron is doing here is actually the responsibility of our universities. Because they claim, the oil companies claim, especially the IOCs, the international oil companies, that our graduates are not employable. So And the money they use in these trainings does not come from Chevron alone. It comes from their own contribution of the JV, unfortunately. So they take part of the JV money, joint venture money, to train these people, adding to their daily cost of production. We need to know this clearly, because Shell had a similar program called SITP, the Shell Intensive Training Program. And I think Napiens had to stop it because they built a massive structure and they got lecturers from Aberdeen University and all over the world to basically train Nigerian graduates again, and then before they put them through the process of the interview and before they are now employed. And again, as they were doing that program then, they were not employing everybody, but it created a veritable ground for people that went through those trainings to work for the oil service companies. So my own contribution here basically would be, if Chevron has done that, they can only have the space to take the people before they can take them. Yeah, one of my prayers, really, my amendment to prayer 2 is that amongst the committees, this is actually the baby of local content. But in any case, if we must go ahead with the committees on labor, employment, and productivity and justice, we should add local content because we have handled a lot of this. The question, the protest should really be that is Chevron bringing in foreigners? Are they bringing in expatriates and not employing these people they have trained, the locals that they have trained? If that is the problem, local content has a solution to that. But if that's not the problem, we know what's been happening in the Niger Delta. You know, with the issues with breakage of pipes, with the price of oil today, most of these companies are not hiring. If anything, they are dropping people. You know, it's actually news that Shell will be dropping 30% of their workforce. The government can't do a whole lot about that right now because it's an investment. It's not a government agency. It's an investment. So if they cannot afford to keep them, why should they keep them? Because we have handled a lot of this in the local content committee. So the point I'm making here really, the government has failed in our educational system. That is why there was need for VTP. Then secondly, the people have worked, they have garnered experience. Ideally, they should be able to take that experience to the oil service companies or to other IOCs to work. But unfortunately, they are all dropping people right now. They are all dropping their workers. So I will urge that we add local content to this. Like I said, we have handled many cases like this before. And I'm sure we're going to work out with Chevron and come to a win-win for everybody. So, Mr. Speaker, as much as I support this motion, I want us to do a proper investigation. But like I said, I know local content has a solution because I'm a member of that committee. Thank you.
Any more contribution? So, those in favor of the motion? Oh, okay. I don't have any amendments. Okay. We have amendments from Honorable T.J. Yusuf. There's notice of amendment from you.
Mr. Speaker, sir, my dear colleagues, I seek to amend prayer 2 to include the committee of petroleum upstream. I feel that will help the job of looking at the thing details by putting the committee that oversee such area as part of the committee that will look at it. I just want to include the committee on petroleum upstream. That's my...
Any seconder? So, no seconder. No. Honorable Iboro, IBB, your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues. My name is Iboro Ekanem. I represent the good people of Ikono in the federal constituency of Akwa Ibom State, a state of uncommon transformation. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, moving for amendment, I want to move a motion to amend prayer 1 that it is not only Chevron that is involved in casual labors. We have gone around as committee on gas and we discovered it also, the gas companies are also involved in this situation. So I want to amend that the IOCs and gas companies to regularize this casual labor in the country in accordance with the labor law. I so move.
Honorable Abonta.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise to support the amendment being sought by Honorable Iboro for the simple reason that we can't be doing this investigation and study in piecemeal. All the IOCs are guilty of this, so it should be seen generally. I so support.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Sergio Sogo, last amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second that the prayer to be amended to add local content. I so move.
Someone wanted to add petroleum upstream. Now local content. Honorable Flatter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Abubakar Hassan Fulata. I represent Brunei Agri Customer Guri Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Jigawa State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Sergius. I so second.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. We announce the conference committee on the bill for NAC to facilitate the development of Nigeria's capital market by enabling the conversion and re-registration of the Nigerian Stock Exchange from a company limited by guarantee to a public company limited by shares and for other related matters. Conference committee will be chaired by Honorable Tajuddin Yusuf. Membership includes Honorable Aliyu Madaki, Honorable Ihama Morege, Honorable Dennis Amadi, Honorable Shuaibu Abdurrahman, Honorable Joseph Bambose. Rules and business adjournment, please. Okay. Move that we step down other businesses before we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeff. I represent the good people of Buruku, my dear colleagues. I'm from Benue State. I rise to happily move that we step down all the remaining items on the order paper so that we can do the needful. I so move.
Deputy Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Chairman, Rules and Business. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Rules and business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I move that the House do adjourn to tomorrow, 28th of February by 11 a.m. I so move.
Honorable Jobe.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I do second the motion as ably moved by Chairman House Rules Committees.
House hereby adjourns to tomorrow, Wednesday, 27 February 2018 by 11 a.m.